Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Fantasy Football Breakdown. It was a wild week in fantasy football. It's only going to get more wild because the Kyle Allen era has begun in Houston, which means we're all screwed. But before we get into that kind of story, let's talk to our two co-hosts, the best co-hosts in fantasy football, joining us from New York, Fanduel Fee. Fee, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm super happy. The United States has moved on in the other football.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and yeah, I'm super excited about that. And I'm excited about this week in fantasy. I got some good FanDuel stuff coming.
Who you playing in Nitro?
That's a great question. I have no idea.
You should look.
Okay.
And joining us from North Carolina, Mike Dunton. Dunton, how are you?
I'm good. I think I'm tired from all the World Cup games starting at 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Uh, I saw the U.S. was the first time since 1930 that they posted two shutouts in the same World Cup, and I didn't know if that meant on offense or defense.
It means on defense.
Oh, okay.
I'm playing you, Wayne. I'm
I know who
playing
you're
you.
playing, FanDuel Fee, and you're gonna lose.
I learned
You're
it by watching.
gonna lose. You're gonna lose. Remember Stillwell from
Yeah.
anyway, that's baseball, and there's no crying in baseball, so we're gonna move on to fantasy football. Let's go on to buy it or bullshit. This week there was a lot of weird stuff that happened last week, right? And one of the funny things is last week on this show we had a conversation who was the worst quarterback in fantasy football, and my options that I gave you were Davis Mills, right, or Zach Wilson. And then the other person you guys brought up was Baker Mayfield. And what happened last week?
All three of them got benched.
All three of them got benched after we talked about it on this show. All three of them. So
within like 24 hours of us talking
the
about
answer was yes. All three of them were the worst quarterback in fantasy football. But that brings me to my first buy it or BS because he looked pretty good. He has a decent matchup this week. There really isn't much to worry about on buys. It's only Kyler Murray and the great Sam Darnold in Carolina at quarterback. But moving forward, Fee, we'll start with you. Buy it or BS. You could trust Mike White if you have to in fantasy football.
I am absolutely buying that. The Jets have a very good offense. And I think he proved it last week that he can run it. He's got weapons on the outside between Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson. And while I think they've got some injuries at the running back position, they can kind of muster it all together and put it all together. And I think James Robinson was a healthy scratch. So at least he's healthy. They could toss him in there. I'm not sure what's going on with James Robinson with him getting traded and then being a healthy scratch. That's kind of crazy to me considering the love that we had for him coming into the season. But I imagine he could be serviceable for them, but I'm buying it. I like Mike White. He looked good. I feel like he can do well in the Jet system.
Dutton.
Yeah, I agree with Fee. I mean, here's the deal. The Jets are moving on from Zach Wilson. They haven't said it yet, but they're moving on from Zach Wilson, right? I mean, it's time for him to go. He wasn't the captain of his BYU team. There's a reason why, right? He lacks leadership qualities that you need to be an NFL quarterback. Not saying that Mike White has those leadership qualities, but I think the locker room is going to be a much happier place with Mike White at the helm rather than Zach Wilson and all the drama he brings.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm buying it. I think the Jets are, there's a good chance that the NFC and the AFC East send 7 teams to the playoffs this year, right? Like, it's crazy to think of. Right.
Well, right. If the season ended today, the entire NFC East is in the playoffs, right?
Right.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, I think the Jets will rely on their defense. I think the Jets will rely on their running game, like Fimano said, and I think they're only going to improve as White gets more, of the first team reps in practice and actual game time. So, yeah, I'm buying it.
So here's my thoughts on James Robinson. I don't think he's built for fast offenses. Jacksonville went very fast this year. They went speedy receivers. Etienne, obviously, even Ingram at tight end is a fast guy, right? Obviously, Lawrence is too. and he was ran out of Jacksonville, and they said he was a healthy scratch last week because they felt Carter and Knight ran their system better, and the Jets are a fast team. Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore's back in the mix with Mike White now, like even Corey Davis, who's banged up, but when he's healthy, he's that guy, give in and go guy, and even Michael Carter before he got hurt, he's the pass scat back, right? Like that's who these guys are, and I just don't think James Robinson is that kind of guy, and I think he keeps getting bummed out and put in the wrong system, but I think he's still very good if he finds the right home, which is a shame for him. But yeah, no, I agree. I like Mike White. I mean, I don't think you go out and you start him over a lot of people just yet, but I think if you have to, I think there's a plenty of people that you can start him over. I think it's a good matchup against the Vikings this week as well. Moving on, Aaron Rodgers got hurt for like the third time this year, but he says he's going to gut it out and play. But that's not what we care about, because what we care about is that Jordan Love came in and looked pretty good, right? So you're in this, well, I guess you're still in like second place because that division's pretty bad, but you're out of playoff contention right now. Why do you not hand it over to Jordan Love and see what he has for a couple weeks and get Aaron Rodgers completely healthy? Buy it or BS, they should do that. They should give it to Jordan Love this week. Dutton, we'll start with you, Dutton.
I'm going to BS it because I just read an article that Aaron Rodgers is starting this week, and that as soon as they're out of
I said they should. I didn't say that.
I hear you, but as soon as they're out of playoff contention, they're going to start Jordan Love. I mean, the writing's on the wall. Aaron Rodgers will not be a Packer next year. And I think they have to figure out what they have with Jordan Love before they go into the offseason. There's a slim, very, very slim chance to make the playoffs. But let's be honest, that door is closing probably, if not this weekend, very soon. They're going to start Aaron Rodgers because he is the franchise and he's Aaron Rodgers. So I'm BSing it because of just normal, like you're going to start Aaron Rodgers. But I hear what you're saying. But Jordan Love will be starting, if not next week, the following week when the Packers are officially out of the playoffs.
But then you have to bench Aaron Rodgers. Right now, you could say, we're resting you, right? And you're not benching him.
Yeah, but he's already agreed to it. I mean, he's basically said, like, look, that's the business of football, and I understand it. And, if we're out of the playoffs, then they got to see what they have. I mean, he's already saying the right buzzwords.
He's said a lot of things, though, in the past. We'll see how he takes it when it actually happens. Fee, what do you think? Fee?
I forget what the question exactly was, but I'm saying BS because I don't. The Packers should find out what they have with Jordan Love, and now is absolutely the time to do it. He did look good last week. I don't know how good he actually is. I don't know that we've seen it. I don't know that we've seen enough of him.
Right.
Really. And even though Aaron Rodgers is saying all the right things, if he were to be benched for Jordan Love for this, you would hear about it. And maybe that's why they're not doing it. But now should be the time that they do it because it's a perfect opportunity for them. And it's kind of annoying, and it probably sucks for Jordan Love, but it's annoying probably for everybody else that they're not doing it.
But isn't it the exact thing that happened to Aaron Rodgers? Like, didn't he sit behind Brett Favre, who was constantly banged up, and everyone was like, when are you going to start Aaron Rodgers? When are you going to start Aaron Rodgers? When are you going to start Aaron Rodgers? So, I mean, the Packers are patient. They're playing the Bears this week. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is their daddy. So. But yeah, I hear you. I don't know. Right. His time is limited there, and they're going to let him play one or two more games, and then they're going to say goodbye to him, and that'll be the end.
Yeah.
What if he wins?
It doesn't matter though. If enough other teams win, they're still out of the playoffs.
Yeah, but
so once they're mathematically,
that's what he said tonight. Once they're mathematically eliminated, he knows he'll be sitting. That's what he said today.
But if you win too many games, then you ruin your draft pick, and if you don't have something in Jordan Love, then you're screwed. Because then you can't go get a quarterback, and you're stuck with Jordan Love, who you don't know if you have anything with. It's just a weird situation, and I think with him being as injured as the dude left the field. Like, Aaron Rodgers doesn't leave the field, right? He went into the locker room. Here's your opportunity to say you're sitting for a week, and they're not against the Bears, a team that, I don't know. I think they should do it. I agree they're not. I'm just saying I think they should. Now, speaking of shitheads, let's turn our attention to, we already eliminated the three worst quarterbacks in fantasy football. Uh, we'll start with you, Fee. Buy it or BS. Russell Wilson is officially the worst fantasy football quarterback right now.
Uh, I think I gotta buy it.
He
I mean, it's
is
clear
bad.
that he is really, really bad. And I don't know that it's necessarily all on him. He has the worst coach in football.
Worst.
There's a lot of injuries on the offensive side of the ball. They don't have any running backs anymore. I mean, it wasn't a problem before, although they were a little bit better when Javonte Williams was there. Um, and now they got rid of Melvin Gordon, so now two guys are gone. Uh, I,
And Chase Edmonds is out for the year. So your three
I
starting running
the,
backs are gone.
the bottom line is that the Broncos made a gigantic error in giving up all those draft picks to pick up Russell Wilson and then paying him all that money. A huge error. And it's not gonna be good for them for at least a couple of years. But again, I don't know that it's all on Russell Wilson. A lot of it should be, and a lot of it is because he looks bad, but they don't really have a whole lot going on offense, especially coaching wise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Dutton.
Yes, it's 100% he's the worst fantasy quarterback because the only two quarterbacks he's ranked above are Matthew Stafford and Tyler Henneke, according to ESPN fantasy stats for this week. And I don't know if Tyler Henneke is worse than him. So he is the worst quarterback because Matthew Stafford is hurt, right?
At least Henneke wins in real life. I know the question was fantasy football, but
Right.
at least Henneke's
Right.
a winner, right? Like his job isn't to be Russell Wilson. He wasn't. There weren't 5 draft picks and millions of dollars thrown at Tyler Henneke.
Nope.
And he
Right.
wasn't even the starter coming into the season, right?
Right.
Like, I think they're on a different level.
Yeah.
But here's
He
the
is
other
the
thing.
worst fantasy quarterback right now. 100%.
Judy, you just can't count on the guy. He's a great athletic talent, but he'll never be healthy. He just looks like he's that guy, right? Like there's just those guys that you draft and they're going to start 8 games a year, and out of those 8 games, 6 will be full, right?
He's the next Kenny Galladay.
Yeah. And then I've talked about it every year's this guy's breakout, but I just don't believe in Cortland Sutton. I don't think he has good separation skills. I think he's a good receiver, but he's not the number one, and that's what he's there as. And I think it's showing this year that he can't be that guy. And so, to your point, Fee, Russell Wilson really doesn't have anything, right? He doesn't, but he's also Russell Wilson, and he should be a lot better than what he looks like.
You know who's loving this whole talk conversation right now? The
Pete
Seattle
Carroll.
Seahawks.
Yeah, Pete
Who got
Carroll.
all those draft picks and are making the playoffs.
And Pete Carroll's like, I got Geno Smith, who's like good.
He's comeback player of the year, and he has like one of the greatest QBR ratings in the league right now.
Yeah. So I don't like to talk about him, but I feel like we should. And we're on the subject of assholes. So Deshaun Watson comes back this week. What do you do in fantasy? I don't want to get into anything about this guy and give him any more airtime than we need to, but what do you do in fantasy if you were someone that drafted or kept or have him on your roster? When do you start Deshaun Watson? You do it right from the start as soon as he gets the start. Dutton, buy it or BS, you do it right when he gets to start.
You BS that because there's a lot of timing that has to be made. He has limited practice reps. I'm not saying you don't start him. Maybe if you have him, you stash him for the playoffs. But right now, I don't think you start him this week against the Texans. And it's
Even
not because
against
I think
the worst defense in football in a revenge game.
And I was just going to say, it doesn't matter. The Texans could be a JV high school defense, but the timing of an NFL quarterback with their receivers is extremely important. And when you haven't had it for a long time, I think it's hard to start him. So, I mean, I think it's a lot of just watch what he does this week. I mean, and that's what you do. I mean, that's all I'm giving airtime to him for.
Face.
So, yeah. Hasn't he been practicing with them for like the last 3 weeks though?
2 or 3 weeks. Yeah. He's been allowed to practice for a couple weeks.
Right. So it's not like he's just coming in completely cold
Right.
with these guys. There's also some what do you say precedence with this. Peyton Manning was on the Colts then was out for an entire year, and then joined up with the Broncos, a new team, a new coach, a whole bunch of new players, and was amazing right from the get.
Yeah, but that was Peyton Manning.
Fair.
Listen, yeah, no, completely fair. However, when you look at Deshaun Watson's stats from 2020 or 2019 and 2020, he was, if not the best quarterback in the league, he was top 3 both years.
Especially fantasy.
The guy was insane. He had insane numbers. So like, he hasn't been hurt, and yes, he hasn't played, but so it's kind of tough to say. I would say bench him for the first week, but again, the problem is he's playing Houston, who's fucking terrible,
right?
And it's a gigantic revenge game for him. So like, I don't know how you don't play him. If you need a quarterback, I would absolutely play him.
Is it a revenge game for him, or is it a revenge game for the Texans?
Yeah, all around. This is like the ultimate revenge game.
Come on, it doesn't matter if it's a revenge game for the Texans. They're not doing dick.
Yeah, I still think it's. I don't know.
What do you do? I didn't put him. Let's focus on the Texans here. The Browns. There's only one team that's worse than Houston in the rushing defense to fantasy football running backs, and it's Cleveland. But what do you do with Dameon Pierce? What do you do with him?
No, Dameon Pierce has not looked good the last couple of weeks.
He has 16 yards rushing on 15 carries in 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's hit the proverbial wall.
Well, Kyle Allen under center is not going to do any favors.
No.
You're back in the box.
I don't know.
But can you start him even against the Browns? Like, what do you do with him? I can't.
I think you have to start him. Just on the off chance that he like breaks one.
Yeah, because they are that.
I mean, he could still get you like 80 yards rushing. Like you said, the Browns are the worst team against the running back in football. So I think you have to play him, as bad as he and the Texans offense have looked. But again, this is not a revenge game for Houston. Let's be honest. And if it is, I still don't see them doing anything, especially with Kyle Allen under center. So
there's nobody on the team that was there when Watson was there. I mean, Watson was there last year, but he was on the sideline, right? There was no one like bonded with him. All right, last buy it or BS. Cam Akers is out of practice already this week. What do we think about Kyren Williams, who already got the majority of? He was the lead running back last week, but he only ran for 11 times for 35 yards. Are the Rams good enough to trust him because he has a few favorable matchups over the next couple of weeks? What do you guys think? Dunton, buy it or BS? Kyren Williams can be started in fantasy football.
BS. Just remember, Bryce Perkins is their quarterback.
Yeah, I know.
So,
who?
Yeah, exactly. You're going to make them throw the ball, right? You're going to make sure that they can't run, because the Rams are going to go into games wanting to run the ball. And you're making Bryce Perkins beat you. And if Bryce Perkins beats you, then good job, Bryce Perkins.
Who the hell is Bryce Perkins?
Yeah.
And Sam.
Not even his name. It doesn't even sound like it's his name.
I almost said Sam Darnold. Aaron Donald is also out this week. I mean, there's nobody on the Rams team. It's bad.
It's a worse fall off than the Giants beating the Patriots than winning the Super Bowl.
We've never seen a fall off like this. Like, there's nobody on the field that played in that Super Bowl because they're all injured.
It is absolutely worse than the Giants. I'll tell you,
it's horrendous.
It's got to be the worst like in history.
Mm-hmm.
Fee, what do you think about their running back situation?
Yeah, I'm with Dutton. It's BS. I want to like Kyren Williams because he's a good player, but the Rams don't have anything going on, and you cannot trust that going into a fantasy game. So you can't. I don't. Good matchups are not good matchups unless you're really struggling, or you're really hit by injuries, or like you got nothing else going on. Then yeah, sure. He's a guy you could absolutely toss in there and hope for like 5 to 10 points. And you never know. He could, like I said earlier, he could break one. He's a good enough player to do something like that, but I just don't see it happening with the Rams offense the way it is right now.
I mean, if you're the Rams, do you consider forfeiting the rest of the game so people don't get killed? Like that's like there are like fourth stringers out there right now. There's legitimate chance of major injury for some of these guys.
Is this like the replacements?
I mean, it's worse. So those guys, they go. Those guys had a chance. It's crazy. We've just never seen anything like it. All right, so that wraps up Buy It or BS. Let's move on to second down. Calvin Ridley's locks of the week. We lost last week. We went with Dunton, who picked the Chargers. I did cry a little bit on Thanksgiving. My prediction that the Lions were going to win their fourth in a row was wrong, but they did cover their spread. And I am back on the Lions bandwagon, at least against the spread. This week, I'll get up the ball rolling. I'll start it this week. They are now 8-2 at home in their last 10 against the spread. They're back home. They're actually at home, and they're getting 1.5 to the Jaguars. So the Jaguars are a nice team, but to be on the road giving points to an offense that is pretty damn good, and they looked good against Buffalo. I'm going with the Lions getting 1.5. Again, your weekly reminder. This is Wednesday. That could all change, but right now I'm locking in my Lions at a point with 1.5, getting it. And we'll go to you, Fee.
I am rolling with the Cleveland Browns this week against Houston. I know we just talked a whole lot about it, and the whole Deshaun Watson, not playing for a year and a half. And they're -7.5 going into this game, which is a tough number. I just think that Cleveland's going to run it down their throats with Chubb and Hunt, and I'm going to go with Cleveland and say they're going to cover.
That could be a 77.5 point spread. Quite honestly, that's how bad the Texans are. Dutton.
I'm going with the Bucks against the Saints. They're at home. I don't want to be a team that has a losing record and winning the division. So at some point, the Bucks have to get to 500 and a little bit over 500. And I think the game at home helps this week. -4. I feel like -4 is a little bit too much, but I think they can pull it off. I don't know if Fournette's coming back, but Rachaad White's not a bad option there. And the Saints defense, it's good, but it's not dominant. I think the Bucks can overcome that.
And the Taysom Hill experiment failed miserably last week when we talked about on the show last week that they were going to get him more involved. And they did, and it amounted to diddly do, right? Weren't they shut out even? I think they were shut out.
Yes, they were.
They were.
They had Kamara fumbled on the 1 yard line.
Right. Oh yeah, he fumbled twice.
Had another,
He fumbled twice in that game. Not on the 1 yard line, but he fumbled twice in that game.
Yeah, they had all sorts of opportunities to get into the end zone and score some points, and they just didn't.
Yep, that's right. Okay.
I like the Lions. I don't know if the Jaguars won last week because they pulled out a miraculous 50-second drive at the end of the game, right? Yeah. The Lions.
If the Jaguars win 28-27 again, the Lions once again cover at home.
Right.
The Lions are a team that covers the spread. That's what they do. That's why.
And they're gonna finish close to 500 this year.
But I do think Cleveland wins by 77.5. So I'm okay if you want to take Cleveland.
All right, let's go to the Browns. But yeah.
Okay. So that takes us to third down, and third down is Fanduel Fees stacks of the week. I'm sorry. And you said at the beginning of the show you have some good ones, so let's get to it.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to start us off with the Los Angeles Chargers and the Las Vegas Raider game. I am rolling with Justin Herbert this week. He's priced up at 8,100, but he's playing the Raiders, and he's proven that that they're gonna throw the ball all over the field. Even with Eckler, he just throws it, whether it's a check down to Eckler or he throws it downfield, the guy throws for 300 yards almost every game. So I'm gonna roll with him for 8,100. You could stack him with either Keenan Allen, he's 7,700, or Josh Palmer at 6,600. I think Mike Williams is out again this week.
He's not practicing. It's Wednesday, but he has yet to practice, so it probably will be, yes.
Right. So Palmer is squarely in the conversation there. It's $1,100. If you can fit Keenan, I would do it. If you can't, I would go Palmer. Second stack is Trevor Lawrence going against Detroit. I know we just spoke about that one, and we're sort of on Detroit's side, but Jacksonville's going to keep it close. Trevor is another guy who slings the ball all over the field. Jacksonville, he's had, I think, 18 points per week since week 4. So that's what he's averaging. And they're playing Detroit. Detroit's defense is not good. This has the potential to be a very high scoring game. So I got Trevor in there. He's 7,500. So you're saving a little bit of money there. You could throw him up with Christian Kirk, who's also 7,500, or you can even toss in Zay Jones, who's gotten a whole lot more volume recently, and he's down at 6,400. So very similar situation to the Herbert stack. On the other side of that ball, I also really like Jared Goff, who's 6,800, who's $700 cheaper than Trevor Lawrence. Not as consistent, but you definitely have the upside of Goff getting you 30 to 35 points, especially going against Jacksonville. And you can stack him with Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's priced up at 8K, but definitely very much worth it. A couple of one-offs for you this week. I really like Nick Chubb. He's priced way up at 9,600, but Houston is the worst against the running back in the NFL this year. And with Deshaun Watson, I imagine they're going to want to run the ball a whole lot. So Nick Chubb, it's 9,600. If you can fit him, I would roll with him. Isaiah Pacheco for the Chiefs, he's priced at 7K versus Cincinnati. He's getting all the touches running wise for Kansas City. He's also had a whole bunch of checkdowns from Mahomes, so he's getting volume. Going against Cincinnati, he's only 7K, which is a pretty good price. I have Brian Robinson for the Commanders, priced at 6,600, going against the Giants. Giants usually are kind of a run funnel type of team. They're very, very good against the pass, not so good against the run. I also have Antonio Gibson in here. I would pick and choose one, probably not play them both. Gibson 6,100, Robinson 6,600. And I also like Cordero Patterson, who's 6,400, playing against Pittsburgh. He's getting a whole more touches coming back off of injury. And that's not Jeff Wilson. That's Garrett Wilson, the Jets receiver, for 6,600. Going against Minnesota. Mike White's going to have to throw the ball to keep up with them. So there's a lot of value at running back this week, with a lot of, guys in the 6 to 7K range. So you may end up wanting to, pay up at quarterback and or receiver this week.
Nice. Very nice. I like the lines. Take them all. Let's move on to the red zone, and we are going to this week's starts and sits. As I mentioned earlier, it's only the Panthers and the Cardinals. You're not really feeling too much. Maybe DJ Moore, if you still trusted starting him with Sam Darnold, who he did look good with, by the way. Dante Foreman has been good for the Panthers. Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins, and I guess James Conner, people still start. So you're not really in trouble this week if those are your bye guys. You should have someone to replace those numbers. However, it is week 13, and every move matters at this point of the year, right? If you're playing for your fantasy life, every move matters. So, Dunton, we'll start with you at quarterback this week. Who are you going to start?
I'm starting Dak Prescott against the Colts simply because I watched Kenny Pickett kind of slice up the Colts for a while on Monday night, and they're not a very good offense, and the Cowboys are a very good offense, so I'm starting Dak Prescott.
Yeah. Fee.
I spoke about him previously. Trevor Lawrence against Detroit, worst in the league against the pass, and Trevor is averaging 18 points per week since week 4.
I like Jimmy G against the Finns only because I think he let us down last week, but he's been pretty steady outside of that, and I think that game could be a shootout, and I think it's an opportunity for him to throw the ball. But I do think Geno Smith has a great game this week as well. Fee.
Yeah, and also with Jimmy G, their running backs are all banged up. Elijah Mitchell's out. McCaffrey's got an injury, so he may have to throw the ball.
Yeah, and I like Geno because, as I mentioned, they said Aaron Donald's out this week, and that just makes life much easier for Geno Smith and Kenneth Walker, actually. So, who do we want to lock in?
Let's lock in Trevor.
Okay.
Like it.
Running back, we'll start with Fee. You already talked about him, so I'll let you start with him.
Yeah, I did. Nick Chubb against and Kareem Hunt against Houston. Deshaun Watson first came back. I imagine they're just going to have to run the ball an awful lot. So yeah, go with Nick Chubb this week.
Dutton.
You're probably starting him, but don't be scared of starting Derrick Henry against the Eagles, because I want you to think back to a few weeks ago when the Commanders just ran the ball down the Eagles' throat, and that was not Derrick Henry. So I think the Titans are going to play ball control offense, and I think they're going to try to keep the Eagles off the field, and I think Derrick Henry can end up with 25 touches, and that could be a big game for him.
He had a weird week last week. That reception was weird, man. Like, he was like 2 steps away from the end zone and he fumbled.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you to start AJ Dillon. I think, if there's a lot of running back injuries. Fee said, as Fee mentioned, the Niners have all their running backs out. And Aaron Jones is going to get his against the Bears. The Bears have let up 13 touchdowns, but Dillon actually looked kind of good last week. And if Aaron Rodgers is kind of banged up and he's leaning on the run game, I think both of them find the end zone against the Bears. Who do we want to lock in? You want to go Dillon because Henry and Chubb are pretty much must start. I mean, everyone's going to start them.
Probably, yes.
That makes sense.
I'm going to tell you to start Devontae Smith at wide receiver this week. Normally, I tell you that I don't like Devontae Smith in some matchups, and I've been right when I've told you to sit him because A.J. Brown gets the love, and teams are usually good at taking out one of the two. The Titans allow 24.5 points to wide receivers, which means they give up juicy points to both sides of the field. So I'm going to tell you, obviously, if you watched A.J. Brown play football this year, you're starting him. I don't need to tell you to start him, but I'm going to tell you to start Devontae Smith with confidence this week as well. Dutton.
We talked about Mike Williams not playing for the Chargers. So it's going to be Keenan Allen as their wide receiver, and they're going to need him against the Raiders. That could be ended up, not that the Raiders are ever in shootouts, but their games can be, high 20s, low 30s, and Keenan Allen can end up with a bunch of looks. So, start Keenan Allen.
Wait.
And for all of those same reasons, start Josh Palmer also.
They all get theirs. Even DeAndre Carter's been nice since Mike Williams been out. DeAndre Carter's been really nice.
Yep.
I could tell you in 2 of my leagues, I'm starting Keenan Allen and Palmer, so I'm good with starting any of these guys. I'll let you pick the one that we want to name.
Do you think most people are going to start Allen anyway? So start Palmer.
I mean, people.
I'm okay with starting Devontae Smith.
Yeah, I'll start.
I like that. I kind of like that call. I wasn't aware of how bad Tennessee was against the receiver.
Let's do it.
All right, tight end. Fee, we'll start with you, Fee.
I'm starting Freiermuth versus Atlanta, who is the 4th worst defense against the tight end this year.
Is that fantasy or real?
Both.
Okay. Dutton.
Tyler Conklin against the Vikings, because why not? Because Mike White's going to find a trusted tight end, because all young quarterbacks do, and why not for the Jets, right? There you go.
I'm going Evan Ingram. I know I think the Lions win this game, and I still do. I think Christian Kirk has a big game that Fee mentioned earlier in his stacks, but I think this is the week Evan Ingram gets in the end zone. Because I don't know why. I mean, the Lions haven't been solid against the tight end, and I think they just he sneaks in there. Who do we want to start? I love Muth. I like Freiermuth. I just like watching him play. So, but whoever you guys want.
Let's do it. Freiermuth is good.
Muth. So to review, our starts of the week are Trevor Lawrence at quarterback, A.J. Dillon at running back, Devontae Smith at wide receiver, and Muth Booth at tight end against the Falcons. Let's move on to sits at quarterback. We'll start with Fee.
I am sitting Lamar Jackson this week. Only because Baltimore's offense just hasn't looked amazing like they should, especially with him at quarterback. And they're playing the Broncos. The Broncos, while they are a bad team, are very, very good on not on offense, on defense. And they've stopped quarterbacks in their tracks over the last 5 to 6 weeks. And I imagine they'll do the same thing to Lamar.
Dutton.
Sitting Kirk Cousins against the Jets because I think Sauce Gardner is a scary matchup for the Vikings this week. So I'm sitting Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins is my pick. Even though every time we tell you to sit him, he screws us. But I'll throw Derek Carr in the mix. I think Dunton. I think like you said. I think people think this is going to be a shootout, but I don't think it is. Josh Jacobs is hurt, and it's Wednesday. It's not like he's out hurt, but
right.
if he doesn't play, and the game's on Derek Carr's shoulder, that's even worse for him. So I'll throw Derek Carr in the mix, but I do think that the sit of the week is Kirk Cousins against the Jets.
Yeah, I think I'll go with Kirk Cousins. And by the way, I did the same thing to Dunton earlier when he had Kirk there. I said, "Hey, Christian Kirk is playing Detroit this week. Why are you sitting him?" And he's like, "But Kirk Cousins playing the Jets." I was like,
Kirk are on a first name basis.
Only 2 Kirks in the league.
Yeah,
right.
Brian Kirk and the Jerks. Do you guys remember them? Brian
No.
Kirk and the Jerks. They were a Jersey Shore band. Anyway, let's move on to running back. Dunton, we'll start with you.
2 fumbles last week against a not so good defense. Now going against a better defense. Alvin Kamara sitting.
Wait, didn't you say to sit Kamara last? No, Fee said to sit Kamara last week.
Fee said to win last week.
And we were right last week, so let's roll with the Kamara train.
Right.
Nailed it.
Fee, who are you sitting?
I'm sitting Singletary against the Patriots D. That Patriots have the best run defense in the league.
Yeah, and Singletary is not very, very strong anyway. I said the Titans aren't good against the pass, but surprisingly, they've only allowed 1 rushing TD to running backs this year. So I'm going to tell you to sit Miles Sanders this week, who had a monster week to bury me in fantasy last week. But I think it's a Jalen Hurts type of week this week with the way that the Titans defense shapes up. I would sit all of these guys. I'm good with going with Kamara again.
All right, we can. I was good with Singletary.
We can go with Singletary too. I'm good with all of them.
Let's go with Singletary.
Mike Singletary?
Yeah,
I'm going to start with wide receiver because Fee's going to be mad at me, but I'm sending Terry McLaurin. I think this game has 7-3, 10-6 written all over it. I don't think there's a lot of scoring. The Giants have only allowed 6 touchdowns to wide receivers this year. I know Fee doesn't like to speak highly of his own team, but they are pretty good. And like I said, I just don't see a lot of scoring in this game. I think Terry McLaurin maybe goes for 5 for like 43 type of day. And if it's PPR, that's not terrible, but you could do better than that. So I say Terry Mack. Dutton.
I'm sitting T. Higgins against the Chiefs.
You're on drugs.
This game has letdown written all over it for the Bengals, right? They've been really hot of late. The Chiefs are looking for revenge for not letting them go to the playoffs last year, and I don't know. This is a gut. There's no other but gut in this one. I'm just telling you.
Fair. That's fair. I like the boldness.
I am sitting Treylon Burks. He's been very good coming back off of injury for Tennessee, but the Eagles, while they're, they haven't been very good against the run lately, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of running going on in this game. I don't think that Tennessee is going to pass the ball very much, especially against Philly's very good pass defense. So Treylon Burks has got to be sat.
Right. I'm not sitting.
I like your Terry Mack pick. I really do.
Okay.
I feel
He
you. It's
doesn't.
like old
He hates
school.
It's okay. We can roll with Terry.
It's old school NFC East. You're right, Wayne. Where it's like
true. It's true. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And you're right. This game does have like 10-7 written all over.
Yeah, absolutely. Tight end Dunton.
I'm sitting Tyler Higbee because we should be sitting all the Rams, but that's the one I'm choosing to sit this week.
I agree. Fate.
I'm sitting Cole Kmet against the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, Fields still hasn't practiced. Hunter Henry had 3 receptions, 63 yards, and a touchdown last week, and Hunter Henry will not do that this week. First of all, so you know that I hate Thursday night games, but this is a full week for both these guys. So I don't consider it the normal Thursday night game. So I think the Buffalo Bills defense is rested enough that they haven't allowed a touchdown yet this year, and I don't think Hunter Henry is going to be the guy that finally breaks the goal line and does it.
And they're finally home.
Yeah, they haven't been home in forever. That's true. Who do we want to? I mean, I wouldn't start a single one of these guys.
I like the Hunter Henry call.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, so to review our sits, Kirk Cousins, Devin Singletary, Terry Mack, and Hunter Henry. Gentlemen, anything else to add? Did we forget anything or anyone from this wild week?
No, but former Tomcat great John Kitna's son is in a lot of trouble if you haven't read that.
Wait, he was a D2 football quarterback last year.
Yeah, well, he's the quarterback for Florida who just got arrested on child pornography.
Oh, my goodness. What's his name?
Hold on.
Jalen Kitna.
Jalen Kitna, maybe? Yeah.
So this is another one. That wasn't who was it. He didn't transfer then. Yeah, okay.
Hold on, I'm going to make sure we're correct on that before we give fake information. Yes, Jalen Kitna, arrested on child pornography catches.
Crazy.
And T.O. punched somebody in the face on a train or something.
And OBJ
No.
got kicked off a plane.
It was at a restaurant.
A restaurant, right.
And OBJ got kicked off a plane.
Actually, it was a CVS fee. It was a CVS where he punched the guy.
Sorry, you're right.
I get angry when I'm in CVS too.
Those receipts, they're too long. He couldn't take it.
Yeah, that was quite a way to end the show right there. But it's for some of you it's playoff week. For some of you it's the last week of the season. For others it's there's just more football to come. We're going to be with you throughout the whole playoffs, the whole season, so you're not getting rid of us this week. We'll see you next week on the Fantasy Football Breakdown.
Go USA and go Swami Squad.